This is the YouTube edition of my book, A Course in Miracles Workbook Nuggets, which is a study aid for the course's workbook for students. I'll begin by reading my book's commentary on today's lesson over a visual of the book's text. I'll then return with some further thoughts on the lesson, which are only included in this YouTube edition of my book. Today's lesson is part of a 10-lesson group that runs from lesson 331 through lesson 340, each of which relates to the ego as understood in the course. I'll be repeating this same introduction for each of lessons 331 through 340, so you can skip past this introduction in the future if you like. Timestamps taking you directly to today's Workbook Nuggets commentary and my further comments are provided in the description below. In the course, the ego is our belief that we are separate and limited bodies with independent minds and wills. The ego is not a real entity, but an illusory, mistaken identity that we believe to be us. The introduction, which precedes these 10 lessons, tells us that, quote, "To know reality is not to see the ego," end quote. Today's lesson from my book and my further thoughts, which are only contained in this YouTube edition of the book, follow. A link to the book on Amazon.com is provided below. Lesson number 331, November 27th. There is no conflict, for my will is yours. Dreams and illusions have no effect on reality. Illusions do have effects, but only within the illusion. If you feel conflict, suffering, anxiety, or pain, you are experiencing the illusion. You are dreaming. Just being aware of this is an enormous and necessary accomplishment. To fully awaken is a far more difficult step to take. Our sleep is deep. The illusion of our ordinary consciousness is both powerful and persistent. That is what the workbook is for, and it works. It awakens you gently and slowly, just what such a deep sleep needs. The title of today's lesson is "There is no conflict, for my will is yours." The capital Y in the word yours indicates that the title is telling us that my will and God's are one. That is, although it appears that I have a small, separate will governed by my individual inclinations and interests, I do not. My mistaken belief that I do have such an independent will is, by definition, my ego. Get a good look at that belief you have about your small independent will. That belief, that feeling, is your ego. The ego is not something real. It is just the mistaken belief in an independent will. And so long as I indulge this mistaken belief, I shall remain asleep in the illusion. I shall continue in my everyday consciousness and life. Ask to see differently. Ask, and you shall receive.